The suit felt like armor. Jin-Woo stood in front of the full-length mirror, uncovered now had been for months, and adjusted his tie for the third time. Charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, expensive in the way his grandmother insisted everything be. He looked like a Park, like an heir, like someone who belonged in a boardroom, except for the right side of his face. The scars caught the morning light streaming through the penthouse windows. All of them open now, always open. Pink and silver tissue stretched from his temple down to his jaw, pulling his right eye slightly downward, twisting the corner of his mouth. No amount of expensive tailoring could hide that. "Stop," Anna said from the doorway. Jin-Woo's hands stilled on the tie. He met her eyes in the mirror's reflection. "Stop what?" "That thing you do, where you start cataloging all the ways you don't measure up." She crossed the bedroom, barefoot in one of his old shirts and sleep shorts, her natural hair wrapped in a silk scarf. 3 months of living together had made her comfortable in his spaces, in their spaces. "You look good, professional, intimidating even." "Intimidating," he repeated, turning to face her. "That's one word for it." Anna reached up and fixed his tie. It had been crooked, he realized. Her fingers were steady, sure. "Your grandmother is testing you. You know that, right?" "I know. And you're going to walk into that building, into that boardroom full of executives who've been running your family's company for years, and you're going to show them exactly who Jin-Woo Park is. What if who I am isn't enough?" Anna's hands moved from his tie to his face, cupping both sides without hesitation. Her thumbs traced the border where scarred tissue met smooth skin on his right cheek, a touch that used to make him flinch, that now grounded him. "You survived a fire that killed your parents. You lived through 17 years of isolation that would have broken most people. You learned to open curtains when darkness felt safer. You flew to Chicago and held my hand while my mother died." Her voice was fierce. "Jin-Woo, you are enough. You've always been enough. Now go make them see it." He kissed her, tasting coffee and mint toothpaste, drawing strength from the way she pressed closer without careful handling. When they broke apart, Anna smiled. "Go be brilliant. I'll be here when you get home." Jin-Woo grabbed his briefcase. Leather, monogrammed, a gift from his grandmother that felt like a leash and a challenge simultaneously, and headed for the door. "Jin-Woo," Anna called after him. He turned. "Your scars are visible. Let them be. They're part of your story, not something to apologize for." He nodded, throat too tight for words, and left. Park Industries headquarters occupied 43 floors of steel and glass in Gangnam. Jin-Woo had been here exactly twice, once as a child holding his father's hand, once at 17 when his grandmother had tried to drag him to a board meeting and he'd had a panic attack in the parking garage. Now he was 25 and walking through the lobby alone. People stared. Of course they stared. He'd expected that, had prepared for it in therapy with Dr. Yoon. But knowing people would stare and experiencing the weight of dozens of eyes tracking his movement across marble floors were different things entirely. A young woman at the reception desk looked up, and he watched her face do the thing faces always did. Initial professional smile, recognition of the scars, minute flinch, overcorrection into exaggerated politeness. "Good morning," she said, voice too bright. "How can I help you?" "Jin-Woo Park. I'm expected in the executive boardroom." Her eyes went wide. "Oh, Mr. Park, of course. Top floor. Ms. Park, your grandmother. She's already there." He thanked her and moved to the elevators, hyper-aware of whispers starting behind him. Someone pulled out a phone. He kept walking. The elevator ride to the 43rd floor took 62 seconds. Jin-Woo counted them, using the rhythm to steady his breathing. For counts in. Hold for 7. It counts out. Anna's trick, borrowed from her mother's techniques for managing anxiety. The doors opened onto a corridor he vaguely remembered, white walls, abstract art, the kind of corporate aesthetic that prioritized expense over personality. His reflection followed him in the polished surfaces, the scarred right side appearing and disappearing as he walked. The boardroom doors were glass and chrome. Through them, he could see 12 people seated around an enormous table. His grandmother sat at the head, silver hair pulled back severely, wearing pearl gray that matched her expression. Jin-Woo pushed open the doors. Conversation stopped. 12 pairs of eyes found him, and he felt the familiar urge to turn his head, to show only his left profile to minimize. Instead, he straightened his shoulders and walked to the empty seat his grandmother had left for him. Right side of the table, directly in everyone's line of sight. "Gentlemen, Miss Chai," his grandmother said, voice crisp. "My grandson, Jin-Woo Park. He'll be joining us going forward as I transition certain responsibilities." The executives, mostly men in their 50s and 60s, one woman who looked like she'd fought hard for her seat at this table, offered polite nods. A few managed welcome or pleasure to meet you. Most just stared at his scars with varying degrees of subtlety. Jin-Woo set his briefcase down and met his grandmother's gaze. She raised one perfect eyebrow. "Waiting. Testing. Thank you all for accommodating my schedule," he said, and his voice came out steadier than he felt. "I know my presence here is unexpected. I've been absent from Park Industries for longer than I should have been. Understandable, given the circumstances," said an older man Jin-Woo didn't recognize. His tone suggested it wasn't understandable at all. "The circumstances being that I was too afraid to be seen in public?" Jin-Woo asked directly. "Yes, that's accurate. I spent 17 years hiding from the world because I thought my appearance made me unsuitable for this. For leadership. For visibility." The boardroom was very quiet. "But I've realized something recently," Jin-Woo continued, pulling out the tablet he'd prepared his presentation on. "Hiding doesn't serve anyone. Not me, not this company, and certainly not the people who depend on Park Industries for their livelihoods. So I'm here now, and I have some thoughts about where we should be heading." He pulled up his first slide, a breakdown of Park Industries' current supply chain practices, highlighted sections showing where they fell short of international ethical standards. "We have labor issues in 3 of our manufacturing facilities. Wage gaps that violate our stated company values. Environmental impacts we're not accounting for in our sustainability reports." Jin-Woo looked around the table. "I've spent the last 3 months studying our operations. These problems are fixable, but they require investment and structural changes." "With all due respect, Mr. Park," said a man whose nameplate read Director Huang, "you've been studying for 3 months. Some of us have been running these operations for decades. I'm aware, which is why these problems exist." Jin-Woo didn't blink. "Familiarity breeds complacency. You've been doing things the same way for so long, you've stopped questioning whether they're the right ways." Director Huang's face reddened. Jin-Woo's grandmother remained perfectly still, but he caught the slight curve at the corner of her mouth. Approval or amusement, he couldn't tell which. "What exactly are you proposing?" Miss Chai asked. She was younger than the others, sharp-eyed, and seemed genuinely interested rather than defensive. Jin-Woo walked them through it. Wage increases tied to productivity and well-being metrics. Environmental audits with third-party verification. Accessibility improvements across all facilities, ramps, adjustable workstations, inclusive hiring practices for people with disabilities. "This will cost money up front," he acknowledged. "But the long-term benefits, employee retention, brand reputation, actual ethical practice instead of just marketing copy, those will more than compensate." "And if the board disagrees with this direction?" Director Huang challenged. Jin-Woo met his eyes. "Then I'll make my case until you agree. Or until my grandmother decides I'm not suited for this role after all. But I'm not going to sit silently while this company profits from practices I find morally questionable." His grandmother stood abruptly. The room tensed. "Gentlemen, Ms. Chai, this meeting is adjourned. I need to speak with my grandson privately." The executives filed out, some curious, some irritated. Ms. Chai offering Jin-Woo a slight nod that might have been respect. When the door closed behind the last of them, his grandmother turned to face him. "That was either very brave or very stupid," she said. "Possibly both. You challenged senior leadership in your first meeting, made demands, implied they're complicit in unethical practices." "Yes." Jin-Woo didn't apologize. His grandmother studied him for a long moment, and he forced himself to hold still under her gaze, to let her see all of him, scars and determination and the steel he'd found somewhere in the last year of choosing to live instead of just exist. "Good," she said finally. "Your father would have done the same thing. He never could tolerate injustice, even when speaking up cost him." Her expression softened fractionally. "You look like him, when you're angry about something that matters." Jin-Woo's chest tightened. She never talked about his father. Never. "The board will resist you," she continued, businesslike again. "They'll test you, undermine you, wait for you to fail, so they can dismiss you as the scarred boy playing at leadership. I know. You'll need to be better than perfect. Work twice as hard for half the credit. Prove yourself daily. I know that too. And you're willing to do it?" Jin-Woo thought about Anna, about the way she'd stood in his darkness and refused to let him disappear. Thought about Dr. Yoon asking him what he wanted his life to mean. Thought about the 17 years he'd wasted hiding. "Yes," he said. "I'm willing." His grandmother's smile was small, rare, genuine. "Then let's begin." Anna defended her thesis on a Thursday afternoon in a lecture hall that smelled like old books and nervous sweat. She'd been preparing for this for months. Longer, really, if she counted all the years of school leading to this moment. Her research focused on ethical supply chain management in pharmaceutical distribution, using her mother's cancer treatment navigation as the primary case study. It had been Priya's idea, actually. "You lived through hell trying to get your mom the care she needed." Her roommate had said over cheap noodles and cheaper wine. "Why not turn that pain into something that might help other people?" So Anna had. She documented every barrier her mother had faced. Insurance denials, medication shortages, clinical trial accessibility issues, the nightmare of international drug shipping. Then she'd researched solutions, interviewed healthcare logistics experts, built models for more equitable distribution systems. Now she stood in front of a panel of 3 professors and an audience of students and faculty, her laptop connected to the projector, and tried not to think about how her mother should have been here to see this. "Healthcare supply chains," Anna began, her voice steady despite the grief sitting heavy in her chest, "are designed for efficiency and profit maximization. But efficiency without equity becomes a system where wealth determines who lives and who dies." She clicked to her first slide. A photo of her mother in the hospital, smiling despite the 4 lines, despite everything. Anna had asked permission before using it. Patricia had said yes immediately. "If my story can help somebody else's mama, you use it, baby girl. This is Patricia Andrews, my mother. She was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer while I was studying here in Seoul." What followed was a nightmare of trying to access experimental treatments across international borders, of fighting insurance companies, of watching life-saving medications sit in customs while the disease progressed. Anna walked the panel through the timeline. The delays, the costs, the barriers that had nothing to do with medicine and everything to do with logistics and policy and systems that prioritized paperwork over people. "My mother died 3 months ago," Anna said, and her voice only shook a little. "Despite every effort, despite accessing treatments that many never could have afforded, despite fighting with everything she had, the system failed her. But more importantly, it fails thousands of others every day who don't have the resources or the desperation-fueled determination to navigate its complexity." She presented her proposed solutions. Streamlined international drug approval processes, transparency requirements for pharmaceutical supply chains, patient advocacy integration into logistics planning, equity metrics tied to distribution efficiency. "These changes won't save everyone," Anna concluded. "They wouldn't have saved my mother, but they might give families more time, more options, more dignity in the fight, and that has to matter." The room was silent when she finished. Professor Kim, her thesis advisor, spoke first. "Ms. Andrews, your research is thorough and your recommendations are practical. But I have to ask, how do you propose implementing these changes when they directly conflict with profit incentives that drive the current system?" Anna had expected this question. The same way any systemic change happens. You make the cost of maintaining the status quo higher than the cost of reform. Public pressure, regulatory requirements, and This is crucial, showing companies that ethical practices can actually improve their bottom line through brand loyalty and reduced legal liability. You're suggesting capitalism can be reformed to prioritize people over profit? Professor Lee asked skeptically. I'm suggesting that framing it as an either-or is part of the problem. Ethical supply chains and profitability aren't mutually exclusive. But we have to be willing to accept slightly lower margins in exchange for systems that don't treat human lives as acceptable losses. The questions continued for another 40 minutes. Anna answered each one, drawing on her research, her lived experience, the lessons she'd learned watching her mother fight not just disease but bureaucracy. When the panel finally dismissed her to deliberate, Anna walked out into the hallway on shaking legs and immediately called Jin-Woo. He answered on the first ring. How did it go? I don't know. I think okay. They asked hard questions. I showed them my mom's photo and I almost cried, but I didn't end. Anna took a breath. I really wish she could have been here. She was, Jin-Woo said gently. She was there in every word you said, in every solution you proposed, in the fact that you turned your grief into something that might help others. Anna, that's her legacy living through you. Anna's eyes burned. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. She could hear the smile in his voice. Come home. Whatever the panel decides, you were brilliant. I'm proud of you. Home? Anna repeated, and the words settled warm in her chest. Yeah, I'm on my way. 20 minutes later, as she was packing up her office supplies, Professor Kim found her. The panel reached a decision quickly, he said. Anna's heart hammered. And highest marks. Standing recommendation for publication. 2 of us want to cite your work in upcoming papers. Professor Kim's usual stern expression softened. Ms. Andrews, your thesis was one of the most compelling pieces of research I've seen in 15 years of teaching. Your mother would be exceptionally proud. Anna's composure cracked. Tears spilled over despite her best efforts, and she ducked her head, embarrassed. Thank you, she managed. That means everything. There's something else. Professor Kim pulled out his phone, showed her an email. I forwarded your research to a colleague who works with Global Ethics Trade Initiative. They're interested in speaking with you about a position. No promises, but I thought you should know. Anna stared at the email. A real job prospect. In her field. Doing work that actually mattered. I don't know what to say. Say you'll take the meeting. Say you'll keep doing this work. The world needs people like you, Ms. Andrews. People who've been broken by unjust systems and chose to fix them instead of just survive them. After he left, Anna sat alone in the empty classroom and pulled out her phone. She scrolled to her photos, found one of her mother from 2 years ago. Healthy, laughing, wearing that ridiculous hat she'd bought at a church fundraiser. I did it, Mama, Anna whispered to the screen. I finished, and I think I might be okay. Eventually, the photo didn't answer, but Anna swore she could feel something. Warmth, presence. The echo of her mother's pride settling around her shoulders like a familiar blanket. She wiped her eyes, squared her shoulders, and headed home to Jin-Woo. They celebrated that night with takeout from Anna's favorite Korean fried chicken place and cheap wine on the penthouse balcony. To Dr. Anna Andrews, Jin-Woo toasted, holding up his glass. Most brilliant researcher I know. Though admittedly, I don't know many researchers. I'm not a doctor, Anna laughed. It's a master's thesis, not a PhD. Doesn't matter. You're a doctor to me. Dr. Andrews, distinguished scholar and professional chicken wing destroyer. Anna threw a piece of pickled radish at him. He caught it, grinning, and the expression transformed his face. Made the scars just another feature instead of the defining one. They'd been living together for 3 months now. After Patricia's funeral, Anna had returned to Seoul and quietly moved most of her belongings from the shared apartment with Priya into Jin-Woo's penthouse. They hadn't discussed it explicitly, just started referring to it as home, instead of Jin-Woo's place. Priya had been thrilled. Finally, I was wondering when you two would stop pretending you didn't want to live together. Plus, now I can get a studio apartment and walk around naked whenever I want. Now Anna stretched out on the balcony lounger, full of fried chicken and accomplishment, and watched Seoul's lights flicker to life as sunset faded. "How was your day?" she asked. The board meeting. Jin-Woo was quiet for a moment, swirling wine in his glass. "Interesting." I challenged them. "They didn't like it." My grandmother seemed pleased that they didn't like it. "Sounds about right." I told them Park Industries needs to improve labor practices, environmental standards, accessibility. He glanced at her. "I may have implied they're complicit in unethical operations." Anna sat up. "Jin-Woo, that's your first day. I know. You're supposed to ease into things, not immediately declare war on the entire executive structure. I know that too." He met her eyes. "But you told me to show them who Jin-Woo Park is." "Well, I'm someone who gives a damn about doing things right. If that makes me difficult to work with, then I'm difficult to work with." Anna studied him. This man who'd hidden in darkness for 17 years, who now sat on a balcony 74 floors up without flinching, who'd walked into a boardroom full of stares and judgments and hadn't apologized for existing. "I'm so proud of you," she said quietly. Yeah. You're becoming who you're meant to be. It's beautiful to watch." Jin-Woo reached for her hand, lacing their fingers together. His scarred right palm pressed against her left hand, where her own scar ran from elbow to wrist. Two broken people, she thought, learning to be whole. "So is the job offer real?" he asked. "The one your professor mentioned?" "I have a meeting next week. Global Ethics Trade Initiative. They do supply chain consulting for companies trying to implement ethical practices." "That's perfect for you." "Maybe." Anna bit her lip. "It's not a huge salary. Definitely less than I could make going corporate. But it's work that matters. Work that aligns with what I actually believe in." She looked at him. "Is that stupid? Turning down better money for principles?" Jin-Woo laughed, genuine and warm. "Anna, you watched me tell a room full of executives that profit doesn't justify exploitation. Do you really think I'd judge you for choosing meaningful work over a paycheck? Your grandmother would. My grandmother judged me for existing for 17 years. Her opinion is not the metric we're using." He squeezed her hand. "Take the job that makes you want to get up in the morning. Money is just money. Purpose is what gets you through the hard days." Anna leaned over and kissed him, tasting wine and wisdom and the particular flavor of being understood. "When did we become the kind of people who have philosophical conversations about purpose?" she murmured against his mouth. "Around the time you decided a depressed recluse was worth saving." "I didn't save you." "No," Jin-Woo agreed, pulling her closer until she was half in his lap, the balcony chair creaking under their combined weight. "But you stayed long enough for me to save myself." "That's better." They stayed on the balcony until the city lights blurred into constellations and the spring air turned cold enough to make Anna shiver. Jin-Woo wrapped his jacket around her shoulders and they moved inside, leaving the empty wine bottle and chicken bones as evidence of celebration. Later, lying in bed with Jin-Woo already asleep beside her, Anna picked up her phone and navigated to her photos. She'd created a private album titled Mama, hundreds of pictures spanning years, but her favorites were from the last months. Patricia in the hospice bed, weak but smiling. Patricia holding Anna's hand. Patricia meeting Jin-Woo for the first time, seeing past his scars in seconds the way Anna knew she would. "I defended my thesis today," Anna whispered to the photos. "Got the highest marks. There's a job opportunity. Jin-Woo is doing amazing things at his company. We're building a life here, Mama. I think you'd be proud." The photos didn't answer. They never did. But Anna imagined her mother's voice anyway, warm, certain, full of the faith that had carried them both through impossible things. "Baby girl, I was always proud. From the day you were born until the day I died, you were my greatest joy. Now stop talking to pictures and go live your life. That's what I want for you." Anna wiped her eyes, set the phone on her nightstand, and turned into Jin-Woo's warmth. He made a sleepy sound and pulled her closer, and she let herself be held. Tomorrow she'd take that meeting. Tomorrow Jin-Woo would fight more battles at Park Industries. Tomorrow they'd keep becoming whoever they were meant to be. But tonight, They were just this, two people choosing each other, choosing healing, choosing the terrifying beauty of moving forward. Anna fell asleep to the sound of Jin-Woo's breathing and the distant hum of Seoul. And for the first time in months, she didn't dream of loss. She dreamed of possibility. The email from Global Ethics Trade Initiative arrived on a Wednesday morning while Anna was still in pajamas, drinking coffee Jin-Woo had made before leaving for an early meeting. Dear Ms. Andrews, thank you for your interest in the regional coordinator position. Based on Professor Kim's recommendation and our review of your thesis research, we'd like to invite you for a formal interview. Would you be available Friday at 2 p.m.? We're particularly impressed by your practical approach to supply chain ethics and your first-hand understanding of system failures in critical sectors. Best regards, Lee Sung-min, Director of Operations. Getty. Anna read it 3 times, then screenshot it and sent it to Jin-Woo with a string of panicked emojis. His response came immediately, "You're going to be amazing. Want me to help you prepare?" She typed back, "Yes, please. Also, I have nothing to wear. Wear the navy suit. You look professional and unstoppable in it. How do you even remember what's in my closet? I pay attention to things that matter." Anna's heart did something complicated in her chest. 3 months of cohabitation and Jin-Woo still found ways to say things that made her feel seen down to her bones. She spent the next 2 days researching Getty, practicing answers to potential questions, and trying not to spiral into anxiety about whether she was actually qualified for this. Jin-Woo ran mock interviews with her, asking increasingly difficult questions until she threw a pillow at him. "I'm trying to help," he protested, laughing. "You just asked me to explain the geopolitical implications of rare earth mineral extraction on global pharmaceutical supply chains. That's not helping, that's hazing. If you can answer that, you can answer anything they actually ask." Anna groaned but pulled out her laptop and started drafting a response anyway. Friday came faster than she wanted. She put on the navy suit, the one she'd bought for her thesis defense, the one that made her feel competent and adult, and stood in front of the mirror second-guessing everything. Jin-Woo appeared behind her, already dressed for his own day in charcoal slacks and a crisp white shirt, tie not yet knotted. "You look perfect," he said. "I look terrified. You look like someone who turned personal tragedy into academic excellence and is about to turn that into meaningful work." He wrapped his arms around her waist from behind, his scarred cheek resting against her temple. "They'd be lucky to have you. Remember that." Anna leaned back into him, drawing strength from his solidity. "What if I'm not ready?" "You're ready. But even if you weren't, you'd figure it out. That's what you do. You show up scared and do the thing anyway." She turned in his arms and kissed him, tasting coffee and confidence she didn't quite feel but could borrow from him. "Thank you for believing in me even when I don't. Always." The Getty offices occupied the 15th floor of a building in Uido, Seoul's financial district. Anna arrived 20 minutes early because lateness felt like failure, and sat in the reception area trying not to fidget. The space was different from what she'd expected. Instead of corporate sterile, it felt purposeful, walls covered with maps showing global trade routes, photographs of workers in various countries, infographics about sustainable practices. A mission statement in Korean and English. "Ethical trade isn't charity. It's how business should work." "Ms. Andrews." Anna looked up to find a man in his 40s, wearing casual slacks and a button-down with the sleeves rolled up. Approachable, not intimidating. "Mr. Lee. Please, just Sung-min. We're not formal here." He shook her hand warmly. "Come on back. The team is excited to meet you." The interview wasn't what Anna expected. Instead of a sterile conference room, Sung-min led her to a collaborative workspace where 3 people sat around a table covered in papers and laptops. "This is Min-ji, our lead researcher. Jay, who handles corporate partnerships. And Yuki, our Japan-Korea regional specialist." Each person waved or nodded. "Everyone, this is Anna Andrews, the candidate Professor Kim has been raving about." Anna sat, hyper-aware that she was the only black person in the room, the only obvious foreigner. She'd gotten used to that in Seoul, but it still made her conscious of taking up space. "So," Sung-min began, "we've all read your thesis. Brilliant work, by the way. The pharmaceutical supply chain case study using your mother's experience. That took courage. Thank you. It was important to me that the research wasn't just theoretical. That's exactly why we wanted to meet you. Minji leaned forward, eyes bright with interest. Most ethics consultants come from business backgrounds. They understand systems but not impact. You understand both. You've lived the consequences of system failures. Tell us, Yuki said gently, why this work? You could make significantly more money in corporate consulting. Anna had prepared for this question, but sitting in front of people who genuinely seemed to care about the answer made her want to give them truth instead of polish. My mother died fighting systems that prioritized paperwork over people. Insurance denials, customs delays, clinical trial accessibility. Every barrier was just bureaucracy to the people enforcing it. But to us, each delay was days she didn't have. Anna's voice stayed steady. I can't bring her back, but if I can help build systems that give other families more time, more dignity, more options, then her fight wasn't meaningless. The room was quiet for a moment. That's the answer we were hoping for, Sungmin said quietly. Because this work is hard, Anna. Companies push back. Change is slow. You'll spend months building relationships only to have projects killed by budget concerns or leadership changes. If you're here just for a paycheck, you'll burn out in 6 months. I'm not here for a paycheck. Then why are you here? Anna thought about her mother's voice, about Jin-Woo learning to open curtains, about all the ways people survived impossible things. Because systems change when enough people refuse to accept that they're unchangeable. I want to be one of those people. Jay grinned. Okay, I like her. Can we keep her? The rest of the interview flowed like conversation. They asked about her research methodology, her understanding of Korean business culture as an outsider, her language skills. Anna answered honestly, her Korean was functional but not fluent. She'd need mentorship on cultural nuances. She had more passion than experience. Experience can be taught, Minji said. Passion and genuine commitment? Those you either have or you don't. As the interview wound down, Sungmin pulled out a folder. I want to be transparent with you about the position. It's a 2-year contract to start. Salary is competitive for nonprofit work, but you're right. It's less than corporate. The hours can be intense when we're doing field assessments. And about 30% travel, mostly within Asia. He slid a paper across the table showing the compensation package. Anna looked at the number. It was fair. Enough to live on, to save a little, to build a life. Not enough to erase her student loans quickly or live extravagantly. But enough. The work itself, Sungmin continued. You'd be helping companies implement ethical sourcing practices, conducting supply chain audits, training their teams on sustainability and labor standards. Basically, being the person who holds their feet to the fire when they want to cut corners. That sounds perfect, Anna said, and meant it. We have 2 other candidates interviewing next week. We'll make a decision by the end of the month. Sungmin stood, offering his hand again. But between us, Professor Kim doesn't give recommendations lightly. And everything we've seen today confirms his assessment. Expect to hear from us soon. Anna floated out of the building on a cloud of possibility. She called Jin-Woo immediately. How'd it go? Really good. I think really good. They seem to actually like me and the work is exactly what I want to be doing and... She took a breath. I won't know for a few weeks, but I feel good about it. I'm proud of you. Come to the office. I'll take you to lunch to celebrate. Jin-Woo, I didn't get the job yet. You went into a room full of strangers and advocated for yourself and your vision. That's worth celebrating regardless of the outcome. 20 minutes later, Anna stood in the lobby of Park Industries, staring up at 43 floors of glass and steel. She'd never been here before. Jin-Woo's work life and home life had remained somewhat separate, though she knew that was changing. The receptionist, same young woman from Jin-Woo's first day, looked startled when Anna introduced herself. Oh, you're Mr. Parks. She hesitated, clearly unsure of the terminology. Partner, Anna supplied. Is he available? Let me call up. She picked up the phone, spoke rapidly in Korean. then smiled. He'll be right down. Jin-Woo emerged from the elevators 3 minutes later, and Anna's breath caught the way it still sometimes did when she saw him in professional mode. He'd grown into the role over the past few weeks, moved with more confidence, held his head higher, stopped automatically angling to hide his scars. "Hey," he said, crossing the lobby to her. Then, in front of the receptionist and several other employees, he kissed her. Nothing inappropriate, just a clear statement. "This is my person." Anna heard whispers start, felt stares, didn't care. "Hungry?" Jin-Woo asked. "Starving." They went to a small restaurant near the office, nothing fancy, just good food and the comfortable quiet of people who didn't need to fill every silence. "So tell me everything," Jin-Woo said once they'd ordered. "Every detail." Anna walked him through it, the interview, the team, the work itself. Jin-Woo listened with complete focus, asking questions that showed he actually understood what she was describing. "They'd be idiots not to hire you," he said finally. "You're biased." "Absolutely. Doesn't make me wrong." Anna's phone buzzed. A text from Priya. "How'd the interview go? Tell me everything over drinks tonight?" She typed back. "Went well, but can't tonight, spending evening with Jin-Woo." Priya's response was immediate. "You two are disgustingly cute." "Fine. Tomorrow. I want all the details." Priya demanding friend time? Jin-Woo guessed. "How did you know?" "You got that slightly guilty look you get when you realize you've been neglecting people who aren't me." Anna kicked him lightly under the table. "I don't neglect people. You've seen Priya twice in the last month. You used to have dinner with her 3 times a week. Are you telling me to spend more time away from you? I'm telling you that I don't want to be the reason you lose other important relationships." Jin-Woo reached across the table, took her hand. "I love that we're building a life together. But you need your own life too. Your own friends, your own spaces. Otherwise, we'll suffocate each other." Anna squeezed his fingers, marveling at how far he'd come from the isolated man who'd barely spoken to her 3 months ago. "When did you get so emotionally intelligent?" "Therapy. Lots and lots of therapy." He smiled. "Dr. Yoon says codependency is easy when you're both recovering from trauma. We have to actively maintain our individual identities." "Dr. Yoon is very wise." "She really is. Also, she wants to meet you eventually. Says anyone who convinced me to leave my apartment is someone she needs to study." Anna laughed, and the sound felt like light. They finished lunch and Jin-Woo walked her to the subway station, kissing her goodbye at the entrance like they were a normal couple doing normal couple things, which Anna realized they were. Somewhere in the grief and healing and daily choosing each other, they'd become simply them. The dinner with Grandmother Park was Jin-Woo's idea, which Anna thought was either very brave or slightly insane. "She wants to meet you properly," he'd said over breakfast one morning. "Not as my employee, as my partner." "Jin-Woo, your grandmother barely tolerates me." "My grandmother barely tolerates anyone, including me, but she respects strength. And you're the strongest person I know." So Anna found herself dressing for dinner at one of Seoul's most expensive restaurants, trying to quiet the voice in her head that whispered she didn't belong in spaces like this. Jin-Woo wore a suit that probably cost more than Anna's monthly student loan payment. She'd chosen a simple black dress, elegant but understated, with a blazer that covered the scar on her arm. Not hiding, just choosing her battles. "You look beautiful," Jin-Woo said, coming up behind her at the mirror. "I look terrified." "You look like someone about to have dinner with a difficult woman and emerge victorious." He kissed her temple. "Remember, she's just a person. A very wealthy, very exacting person, but still just a person." Grandmother Park was already seated when they arrived, occupying a private dining room like it was a throne room. She wore ice blue silk and pearls, her silver hair perfectly styled, her expression revealing nothing. "Grandmother," Jin-Woo said, bowing slightly. "Thank you for joining us." Jin-Woo. Her eyes moved to Anna, cool assessment from head to toe. "Ms. Andrews, please sit." The meal started with polite formality that felt like a verbal fencing match. Grandmother Park asked about Anna's studies, her family background, her intentions in Seoul, all phrased delicately but with edges. Anna answered honestly. Her thesis, her mother's death, her job prospects. She didn't embellish or apologize. I understand you've been living in my grandson's residence, Grandmother Park said, sipping wine with surgical precision. Yes, ma'am. For about 3 months now. Rather fast, don't you think? You were his employee. I was never really his employee. I was someone who cared about him and wanted to help. How convenient that helping came with generous compensation. The words landed like a slap. Anna felt Jin-Woo tense beside her, but she put a hand on his knee under the table. I've got this. You're right, Anna said evenly. I needed money desperately when I took the position. My mother was dying and I would have done almost anything to afford her treatment. Jin-Woo's salary offer was the answer to prayers I didn't think anyone was hearing. Grandmother Park's eyebrow raised slightly. So you admit, but that's not why I stayed. I stayed because your grandson was drowning in isolation and I was one of the few people who bothered to throw him a life preserver. I stayed because underneath all his pain and anger, I saw someone worth knowing, worth loving. Anna met the older woman's gaze directly. I understand why you're suspicious, but I'm not here for money or status or whatever you think I'm after. I'm here because Jin-Woo is the best thing that's happened to me in a very dark year, and I'm not walking away from that. The table was silent. Then Grandmother Park did something unexpected. She smiled. Small, brief, but genuine. You have spine. Good. Jin-Woo needs someone with spine. Jin-Woo exhaled beside Anna. Grandmother, that was? What? I was testing her. She passed. Grandmother Park turned her attention to her grandson. You've changed, Jin-Woo. In the past few months. More confident. More engaged. I assume Ms. Andrews is responsible for some of that. Anna is responsible for a lot of things, but the change is mine. She just made space for it to happen. Grandmother Park studied them both. I won't pretend to understand your relationship. In my day, such things were arranged with more structure. But I'm not blind. You're happy, both of you. That's rare enough to be valuable. The dinner continued, tension easing into something almost approaching warmth. Grandmother Park asked Anna about her job prospects, offered surprisingly helpful advice about navigating Korean business culture as a foreigner. You'll face prejudice, she said bluntly, because you're American, because you're a woman, because you're black. Korean business culture is not kind to outsiders, especially those who challenge established norms. I've noticed, Anna said dryly. Good. Then you won't be surprised when it happens. Use it. Let them underestimate you. Then prove them wrong so thoroughly they have no choice but to respect you. That sounds exhausting. It is. But worthwhile things usually are. As dessert arrived, Grandmother Park turned to Jin-Woo. I heard about your proposal to the board. The labor and environmental reforms. Jin-Woo's shoulders tensed. And Director Huang called me. Complained that you're too idealistic, too willing to sacrifice profit for principles. I know. I'm working on building support. I told him to approve your proposals. Jin-Woo's mouth fell open slightly. You? What? Your father would have done the same thing. He believed business had social responsibility beyond profit. I disagreed with him then, but I'm old enough now to see that he was right about some things. She set down her wine glass. Besides, ethical practices are good for long-term brand value. You're not just being idealistic, you're being smart. I raised you better than to think I couldn't see that. Anna watched something shift in Jin-Woo's expression. Surprise giving way to something that looked like relief, or maybe the beginning of a different relationship with the woman who'd raised him. Thank you, he said quietly. That means more than you know. Don't make me regret it. Prove to the board that ethics and profit can coexist. Make them see you as a leader, not the damaged boy they've written off. I will. As they left the restaurant, Grandmother Park stopped Anna at the door. Ms. Andrews, a word. Jin-Woo glanced at Anna, who nodded. It's okay. When they were alone in the restaurant's foyer, Grandmother Park's expression softened fractionally. I was wrong about you, she said. When Jin-Woo first hired you, I thought you were another caregiver who would last a few weeks before his behavior drove you away. I'm glad to have been mistaken. Thank you, ma'am. He's been alone for so long, hurt for so long. I didn't know how to reach him. Perhaps I didn't try hard enough. It was the closest Anna suspected she'd ever hear to an admission of failure. But you reached him. You stayed. That's not nothing. He's worth staying for. Yes, he is. I'm beginning to remember that. Grandmother Park's hand briefly touched Anna's arm. Take care of each other. Both of you have been broken by loss. Don't let that breaking define you. Then she was gone, leaving Anna standing in the foyer trying to process what felt like benediction from the least likely source. Jin-Woo appeared at her elbow. Everything okay? Yeah, Anna said, still slightly stunned. I think your grandmother might actually like me. Miracles do happen. They took a taxi home through Seoul's glittering streets, and Anna leaned against Jin-Woo's shoulder, feeling like they'd crossed some invisible threshold. His grandmother's approval shouldn't matter. They were adults, they didn't need permission, but it felt significant anyway. Like their relationship had been validated by the one person whose opinion Jin-Woo both dreaded and craved. Thank you, Jin-Woo said quietly, for handling her questions with so much grace. I know some of them were. He trailed off. Borderline racist? Yeah, I caught that. But I've dealt with worse. Anna laced her fingers through his. Besides, she's not wrong that I'll face challenges here. Better to acknowledge it than pretend it doesn't exist. You shouldn't have to deal with any of it. No, I shouldn't. But I do. And I will. Because Korea is where you are, and where my life is now. So I'll navigate the hard parts. Jin-Woo pulled her closer, and they rode the rest of the way in comfortable silence. The job offer from Getty came 2 weeks later, delivered via email while Anna was having coffee with Priya at their favorite cafe. Oh my God! Anna breathed, staring at her phone. What happened? Priya leaned across the table, trying to see the screen. They offered me the position, regional coordinator, starting next month. Priya screamed, loud enough that other patrons turned to stare. Anna, that's amazing. That's the job you wanted. Anna read the email 3 more times, making sure it was real. The salary matched what they'd discussed. 2-year contract with possibility of extension. Start date in 4 weeks. All of it real, concrete, happening. I need to call Jin-Woo, she said. Call him. I'll get us celebratory pastries. Anna stepped outside the cafe, hands shaking slightly as she dialed. Hey! Jin-Woo answered, and she could hear the smile in his voice. What's up? I got the job. Getty just sent the offer. I got it. Silence. Then, Anna, that's incredible. I'm so proud of you. I have a real job, in my field, doing work that actually matters. You deserve it. Every bit of it. A pause. When do you start? For weeks. And Jin-Woo. Her voice caught. I really wish my mom could know about this. She was so worried about whether I'd be okay after she was gone. Whether I'd be able to build a life here. And I am. I'm doing it. She knows, Jin-Woo said gently. Wherever she is, she knows. And she's proud. I'm certain of that. Anna wiped at her eyes, not caring that she was crying on a Seoul street corner in the middle of the day. Thank you for believing in me, for supporting this even though the salary isn't great and I'll be traveling and… Anna, stop. This is your dream. I'm not going to do anything but celebrate it with you. Come home tonight and we'll do this properly. Dinner, champagne, the whole thing. I love you, Anna said, the words coming easy now after months of practice. I love you too. Now go celebrate with Priya. I'll see you tonight. Anna went back inside where Priya had indeed acquired celebratory pastries and was bouncing in her seat with excitement. Tell me everything, Priya demanded. Salary, benefits, what you'll actually be doing, all of it. They spent the next hour talking about the job, about the future, about how far Anna had come from the desperate girl working 3 jobs to pay for her mother's treatment. Your mom would be so proud, Priya said, echoing Jin-Woo's words. You know that, right? I hope so. I know so. Patricia was always bragging about you. Even when she was sick, even when things were awful, she'd tell anyone who'd listen about her brilliant daughter studying in Korea. Priya reached across the table and squeezed Anna's hand. You're living the life she dreamed for you. That's the best tribute you could give her. That night, Jin-Woo cooked, or rather, attempted to cook, Patricia's jambalaya recipe. He'd been practicing for weeks, wanting to master the dishes Anna's mother had made, and the gesture made Anna's heart ache in the best way. It's a little overcooked, he admitted as they sat down to eat. It's perfect, Anna said, and meant it. Not because the rice wasn't slightly mushy, but because Jin-Woo had learned to make her mother's food, had learned to honor Patricia's memory through these small acts of love. They ate and drank champagne and talked about the future. Anna's new job, Jin-Woo's ongoing reforms at Park Industries, the life they were building together piece by careful piece. After dinner, Anna retrieved Patricia's photo from the small altar she'd set up in the bedroom. She brought it to the table, set it next to the jambalaya, and raised her champagne glass. To Mama, she said, who taught me to be strong even when I wanted to fall apart, who believed I could do anything, who would have loved Jin-Woo almost as much as I do. Jin-Woo raised his glass too. To Patricia, for raising the woman who saved my life, for teaching Anna about courage and compassion, for her legacy that lives on in everything Anna does. They touched glasses, drank, and Anna let herself cry. Not from grief alone anymore, but from the complicated mix of sadness and gratitude that came with building a life her mother would never see but had made possible. She's still here, Jin-Woo said, pulling Anna into his lap. In you, in the work you're going to do, in the way you see people. She didn't leave you, Anna. She just changed forms. Anna buried her face in his neck and held on, and somewhere in her chest, the grief and the joy existed together without canceling each other out. Later, lying in bed, Anna stared at the ceiling and thought about beginnings. She was starting a new job. Jin-Woo was transforming his family company. They were both healing, both growing, both becoming versions of themselves they could be proud of. It wasn't a fairy tale. There were still hard days, still moments when the loss felt too big to carry. But there were good days too. Days like this one, full of possibility and champagne and the quiet knowledge that they were going to be okay. Different than before, changed by what they'd survived. But okay. Anna reached for Jin-Woo's hand in the darkness, and he laced his fingers through hers without waking. Tomorrow she'd officially accept the job offer. Tomorrow Jin-Woo would keep fighting for his reforms. Tomorrow they'd keep building their life. But tonight, they were just this. Two people who'd found each other in the dark and chosen to walk toward the light together. That was enough. That was everything. The email from Business Korea magazine arrived on a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks into Anna's new position at Getty. Jin-Woo was eating breakfast when his assistant forwarded it. A formal request for an interview and photo shoot profiling the new generation of Korean business leaders transforming traditional corporate culture. He stared at his phone, coffee going cold in his hand. What's wrong? Anna asked, looking up from her own laptop where she was reviewing supply chain audit reports. Business Korea wants to do a profile piece. Interview, photos, the whole thing. Jin-Woo, that's great. That's major publicity for your reforms at Park Industries. It means photos, professional photos, of my face. That will be published nationally, possibly internationally. Anna set down her coffee and moved to sit beside him on the couch. Okay, and how do you feel about that? Jin-Woo's laugh was hollow, terrified, nauseous, like I want to decline and hide in this penthouse for another 17 years. But I've been working with Dr. Yoon on exactly this. Visibility. Using my platform. Not hiding anymore. He looked at Anna, and she saw the war happening behind his eyes. She says if I want to normalize disability and difference in corporate spaces, I have to be willing to be visible. To let people see me. What do you want? I don't know. Part of me knows this is important. The article could actually help other people with visible differences see themselves represented in business leadership. But the other part, he touched his scarred cheek unconsciously. The other part remembers every stare, Every whisper, every person who flinched when they saw me. Anna took his hand, the scarred one, and pressed it flat against her chest where he could feel her heartbeat. Those people don't matter. They never did. What matters is whether this serves the purpose you're building. Whether it helps the work you're doing. I know. Logically, I know. But knowing and feeling are different things. Yeah. They sat in silence for a moment, Anna's heartbeat steady under Jin-Woo's palm. What would you do? He asked finally. If it were you? Anna thought about her mother, about every time Patricia had walked into a room where she was the only black woman, the only person who looked like her, and had held her head high anyway. I'd be terrified, and I'd do it anyway, because representation matters. Because some kid with facial differences might see your photo and think, maybe I can be a business leader too. Because hiding makes sense when you're protecting yourself, but you're not just protecting yourself anymore. You're building something bigger. Jin-Woo closed his eyes, breathing through the fear. Will you be there? For the photo shoot. If you want me there, I'm there. I want you there. I need you there. Then I'm there. He called his assistant back and accepted the interview. The photo shoot was scheduled for the following week at Park Industries headquarters. Jin-Woo barely slept the night before, and Anna woke at 3 a.m. to find him on the balcony, staring at Seoul's perpetual glow. Can't sleep? She asked, wrapping a blanket around both of them. Keep thinking about all the ways this could go wrong. What if the photos make me look monstrous? What if people see them and decide I'm too damaged to lead a company? What if? Jin-Woo. Anna turned him to face her. What if the photos show exactly who you are? Someone brilliant and strong and scarred and beautiful. What if people see them and think, that's what courage looks like? You have a lot more faith in people than I do. I have faith in you. The people part is secondary. The photo shoot started at 10 a.m. in one of Park Industries' glass-walled conference rooms overlooking Seoul. The photographer was a woman named Kang Hae-jin, probably in her 50s, with kind eyes and an efficient manner. Mr. Park, she said, shaking his hand. Thank you for doing this. I've read about your work with ethical supply chain reform. It's impressive. Jin-Woo's shoulders relaxed fractionally. She was looking at his work, not just his face. Thank you. I'm a bit nervous about photos. That's normal. We'll take it slow. I want natural shots, you in your element doing what you do, not stiff corporate poses. Anna sat in a corner chair, watching as hygiene positioned Jin-Woo near the windows, natural light flooding in. She saw him instinctively angle his head to hide the scarred right side, and hygiene noticed too. Mr. Park, I need to ask, are you comfortable with photos showing both sides of your face? Jin-Woo went very still. That's the whole point, isn't it? Visibility. It is, but only if you're ready. I won't use any photos you're not comfortable with. Show both sides, Jin-Woo said, his voice stronger than Anna expected. I'm done hiding. The session took 2 hours. Hygiene photographed Jin-Woo at his desk, in meetings with his team, standing at the windows overlooking the city he was learning to rejoin. She was respectful but direct, occasionally asking him to turn his head to catch the light on his scars. These are going to be powerful, she said during a break. You photograph with a lot of intensity. Very compelling. Even with. Jin-Woo gestured at his face. Especially with. Your scars tell a story. They make the photos more honest. Hygiene lowered her camera. My son has a port wine stain covering half his face. Birthmark. He's 15 and hates it. Won't let anyone photograph him. But maybe if he sees someone like you, successful, confident, not hiding, it might help him see himself differently. Jin-Woo's eyes found Anna across the room. She smiled, and he seemed to draw strength from it. I hope it helps him, Jin-Woo said. Tell him the scars are part of his story, not the whole story. After the photo shoot, the interview took place in Jin-Woo's office. The journalist was young, maybe 30, with sharp questions and a recording device. Let's start with the obvious question, she said. You've been the heir to Park Industries for 18 years, but only recently became publicly active. Why now? Jin-Woo had prepared for this with Dr. Yoon, but sitting across from someone with a recorder felt different than practicing in therapy. I was 7 when a fire killed my parents and left me with extensive facial scarring. I spent the next 17 years hiding, from public life, from people, from myself. I convinced myself that my appearance made me unsuitable for leadership. He paused. I was wrong, but it took me a long time to understand that. What changed? Jin-Woo thought about Anna walking into his darkness, about the notes she left, about the way she'd refused to see him as broken. Someone showed me that scars are just evidence of survival, that the fire didn't make me less capable, it just gave me a different perspective. And that perspective is actually valuable in business. How so? When you've been invisible, you see other invisible people. When you've been dismissed because of appearance, you think differently about how we judge capability. Every reform I'm pushing at Park Industries comes from understanding what it feels like to be overlooked, underestimated, or written off. The journalist leaned forward, engaged. Let's talk about those reforms. You've proposed significant changes to labor practices, environmental standards, and accessibility. The board resisted initially. They did. But resistance isn't the same as impossibility. I've been building support, showing them that ethical practices aren't charity. They're smart business. Jin-Woo pulled up data on his computer. Since implementing better labor conditions in our manufacturing facilities, productivity is up 14%. Employee retention has improved. We're attracting better talent because people want to work for companies that align with their values. They talked for another 40 minutes about specific policies, about pushback from traditional board members, about his vision for Park Industries' future. The journalist asked good questions, pushed back when his answers felt too rehearsed, and seemed genuinely interested in the work rather than just the spectacle of the scarred heir. Near the end, she asked, "Do you think your facial differences have affected how people perceive you as a leader?" "Absolutely. Some people see the scars and assume I'm fragile, traumatized, unable to handle pressure. Others see them and make assumptions about my capability or intelligence." Jin-Woo met her eyes. "But increasingly, I'm meeting people who see them and think, there's someone who survived something terrible and chose to use that experience to build something better. Those are the people whose opinions I care about." "What do you want readers to take away from this interview?" Jin-Woo was quiet for a moment, thinking about burn survivors and people with visible differences and everyone who'd ever felt like their appearance disqualified them from their own lives. That difference isn't deficit. That scars, visible or invisible, are proof we endured. And that leadership isn't about perfection. It's about showing up despite fear and doing the work that matters. After the journalist left, Jin-Woo slumped in his chair, exhausted. Anna crossed to him, running her fingers through his hair. "You were amazing. I don't know. I might have said too much. Or not enough. Or, you were honest, vulnerable, real. That's what people need to see. When does it get easier? The visibility? I don't know if it does. But maybe you get stronger at bearing it." Jin-Woo pulled her down into his lap, burying his face in her neck. "Thank you for being here. I couldn't have done this without you." "Yes, you could have. But I'm glad you didn't have to." The article went live 3 weeks later. Anna was at work when Priya texted her a link with approximately 15 exclamation points and the message, "Your man is going viral." Anna pulled up the article on her phone. The headline read, "The Face of New Leadership: How Jin-Woo Park is Transforming Corporate Korea from the Inside Out." The main photo took her breath away. Jin-Woo standing at the windows of his office, both sides of his face visible in perfect clarity, scars and all. He looked powerful, confident, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with conventional standards. The article itself was thoughtful, balancing his personal story with substantive discussion of his business reforms. It quoted burn survivor advocates praising his visibility. It included responses from Park Industries employees about improved working conditions. But it was the comments section that made Anna's hands shake. Hundreds of comments. Thousands. "My daughter has facial burns from a car accident. Seeing Mr. Park succeed gives me hope for her future." Finally, someone in corporate leadership who looks like real people instead of magazine covers. This is the representation we need. Disability isn't inability. But there were cruel ones too. Anonymous hatred, mockery, people saying he was using his scars for sympathy, that he shouldn't be the face of anything. Anna felt rage build in her chest reading them, but kept scrolling. For every hateful comment, there were 5 supportive ones. 10. 20. The good outweighed the bad, but the bad still cut. She called Jin-Woo immediately. "Have you seen it?" she asked when he answered. "Yeah, I've seen it." His voice was carefully neutral. "How are you feeling?" Long pause. "Honestly? Overwhelmed." The supportive messages are incredible. People sharing their own stories, saying the article helped them. But the negative ones? He trailed off. The negative ones are from people whose opinions don't matter. "I know. Dr. Yoon said the same thing. But they still hurt." "Of course they do. You're human." But Jin-Woo, look at the ratio. Look at how many people this is helping. How many kids with facial differences now have someone to look up to. I got an email from a burn survivor support group. They want me to speak at their next meeting. And another from a disability advocacy organization asking if I'd consider joining their board. "Are you going to?" "I think so. If I'm doing this, being visible, being vocal, I should go all the way. Use whatever platform this gives me." Anna's heart swelled with pride. "Your mom and dad would be so proud of you." Jin-Woo's breath caught. "You think so?" "I know so. You're honoring their memory by living fully, by not letting fear win." That evening, Anna came home to find Jin-Woo on the balcony, reading through messages on his phone. The sunset painted Seoul in golds and pinks, and he looked peaceful despite the emotional storm of the day. "There's a message here from someone whose son died in a fire," he said when Anna joined him. "She says seeing me succeed helps her believe her son could have had a full life if he'd survived. She thanked me for existing visibly." Anna wrapped her arms around him from behind. "How does that feel?" "Heavy, but good heavy. Like my survival means something beyond just me." He turned in her arms to face her. "A year ago, I would have given anything to be invisible. Now I'm choosing visibility, and it's terrifying and exhausting and... right. This feels right." "It is right. You're changing things, Jin-Woo. One photo, one interview, one policy change at a time." They stood on the balcony as Seoul's lights began to glow, and Anna thought about how far they'd both come. Jin-Woo from hiding to advocacy. Her from desperate caregiving to meaningful career. Both of them from survival mode to actually living. "I have something to tell you," Anna said, pulling back to look at him. "I got promoted today." Jin-Woo's face lit up. "What? Anna, that's incredible. You've only been there a month. 6 weeks, but who's counting?" She couldn't keep the grin off her face. "My audit of that textile company's supply chain caught some major labor violations. They're implementing all my recommendations and using me as the lead consultant on the transition. Sungmin was so impressed, he bumped me up to senior regional coordinator." "That's amazing. We should celebrate." "We're celebrating you today. This is your moment." "Our moments," Jin-Woo corrected, pulling her close. "We're in this together, remember? Your wins are my wins." Anna kissed him, tasting joy and possibility and the particular flavor of a life being built with intention. "Okay then, let's celebrate us. Both of us being brilliant and changing things and figuring out how to be adults." They ordered too much food from Anna's favorite Korean barbecue place and ate it on the balcony, talking about their days, their victories, the small and large ways they were becoming who they wanted to be. Later, Anna sat in front of Patricia's photo and told her mother everything. "Mama, Jin-Woo was in a major magazine today, looking powerful and beautiful and not hiding anymore. And I got promoted. We're doing it, building the lives you wanted for us. I miss you every day. But I think we're going to be okay. Better than okay." Jin-Woo found her there, eyes wet but smile genuine. "Talking to Patricia?" he asked gently. "Yeah, telling her about our day. About how proud I am of you." Jin-Woo knelt beside her, looking at the photo of the woman he'd never have enough time with but had loved through Anna's stories. "Thank you," he said to the photo. For Anna. For teaching her to see people instead of just surfaces. For being the kind of mother who raised someone capable of loving broken things back to wholeness. Anna leaned against him, and they sat there together in front of Patricia's altar, honoring the woman whose love had shaped them both. 3 days later, Anna came home from work to find Jin-Woo in the middle of a panic attack. He was on the floor of the bedroom, back against the wall, breathing in harsh gasps. The laptop beside him showed an internet forum, screenshots of the article's comments, the cruel ones isolated and amplified. Jin-Woo. Anna dropped her bag and went to him immediately. Hey, look at me. You're safe. You're home. Can't breathe. Yes, you can. Match my breathing. In for 4. She demonstrated. Hold for 7. Out for 8. It took 10 minutes to bring him down from the peak of panic. Anna sat with him through all of it, breathing with him, grounding him with touch and presence. When he could finally speak, his voice was raw. I made a mistake. Doing the article. Being visible. Is too much. People are too cruel. What happened? Someone made a website, just dedicated to mocking me. My face. Called it Monster CEO. And filled it with edited photos making the scars worse. Captions about how I shouldn't be allowed in public. He laughed bitterly. There's a whole thread of people agreeing that I'm too hideous for business. Anna felt rage so pure it scared her. Who made this? Does it matter? The internet is full of people like that. Anonymous cruelty. I was stupid to think visibility would be empowering instead of just exposing myself to more hatred. No. Anna's voice was fierce. You were brave. You put yourself out there knowing some people would be cruel, and you did it anyway because it matters. Because representation matters. Because some kid with burns saw your photo and felt less alone. But at what cost? Anna, I can't do this. Be public. Be visible. It hurts too much. Anna took his face in her hands, forcing him to meet her eyes. Then don't read the comments. Don't go looking for the hatred. Focus on the messages from people you're helping. The burn survivor groups. The disability advocates. The parents thanking you for showing their kids that different doesn't mean less. How do you ignore the hate? You don't ignore it. You acknowledge it exists, that it hurts, and then you choose to focus on what actually matters. Your work. Your purpose. The people whose lives you're changing. Jin-Woo's eyes were red. Exhausted. I don't know if I'm strong enough. You are. You survived a fire. You survived 17 years of isolation. You survived becoming visible again. You can survive internet trolls. Anna pressed her forehead to his. And you don't have to survive them alone. I'm here. Dr. Yoon is here. The people who matter are here. I'm tired, Anna. So tired of fighting. I know. So let's not fight tonight. Let's just exist. Order takeout. Watch something mindless. Remind yourself that you're more than what strangers on the internet think of you. They did exactly that. Ordered comfort food. Watched an action movie that required no emotional investment. Existed together in the safety of their home. Jin-Woo fell asleep on the couch with his head in Anna's lap, and she stroked his hair and silently promised to protect him from every cruelty even though she knew she couldn't. The next morning, Jin-Woo called Dr. Yoon for an emergency session. Anna listened from the other room as he worked through the panic attack, the internet hate, the question of whether visibility was worth the cost. When he emerged an hour later, he looked calmer. Dr. Yoon reminded me that exposure to cruelty doesn't mean I failed, he said. It means I succeeded enough to threaten people's comfortable assumptions. People mock what they don't understand because understanding requires empathy they're not willing to give. She's right. She also suggested I hire a social media manager to filter comments. Someone who can flag the supportive messages and shield me from the worst of the hate. That's actually brilliant. Yeah. Jin-Woo pulled Anna into a hug. Thank you. For last night. For not telling me I was being weak or overreacting. You weren't. You were being human. Having limits doesn't make you weak. It makes you honest. That afternoon, Jin-Woo received an email from the burn survivor support group following up on their request for him to speak. He stared at it for a long time before forwarding it to Anna. Should I? He texted. Only if you want to. No pressure either way. 10 minutes later. I want to. I'm terrified, but I want to. Then do it. I'll be there with you. Anna watched Jin-Woo type his acceptance email and felt a fierce pride that had nothing to do with her and everything to do with witnessing someone choose courage despite fear. He was learning to live out loud. And she was learning that loving someone didn't mean protecting them from every hard thing. It meant standing beside them while they faced those things themselves. Later that week, Anna came home to find Jin-Woo cooking dinner. Actually cooking, not just attempting. The penthouse smelled like garlic and ginger, and music played from the speakers, and he was humming along while he worked. This is new, Anna said, hanging up her coat. What? You. Cooking. Humming. Looking happy. Jin-Woo looked up from the stir-fry and smiled. I am happy. Despite the internet trolls and the anxiety and all of it, I'm actually happy. Is that weird? Not weird. Amazing. Anna crossed to him and wrapped her arms around his waist from behind. You're becoming who you're meant to be. That's worth celebrating. So are you. Senior Regional Coordinator. Changing supply chains one audit at a time. We're kind of killing it, aren't we? Yeah, Jin-Woo said, turning in her arms to kiss her properly. We really are. They ate dinner on the balcony as Seoul pulsed below them, and Anna thought about resilience. About how it wasn't the absence of breaking, it was the decision to keep going after you broke. To let the cracks show and call them scars instead of wounds. Jin-Woo had been broken by fire and grief and isolation. Anna had been broken by loss and systems that valued profit over people. But they were still here, still building, still choosing each other and tomorrow. That was victory enough. The one-year anniversary of their relationship fell on a Saturday in late spring. Anna woke to find Jin-Woo already awake beside her, propped up on one elbow, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. That's creepy, she mumbled, still half asleep. How long have you been staring at me? Long enough to count 17 different things I love about your face. Only 17? I'm disappointed. Jin-Woo laughed and kissed her forehead. Happy anniversary. Has it really been a year? Anna stretched, blinking in the morning light that streamed through windows they never closed anymore. Feels like yesterday and forever ago at the same time. I know exactly what you mean. They'd both taken the day off. A rarity with Jin-Woo's increasing responsibilities at Park Industries and Anna's travel schedule with Getty. The plan was simple. Revisit the places that mattered to their story. First stop was the penthouse balcony where they'd first kissed. Jin-Woo led Anna outside, where he'd already set up breakfast. Pastries from her favorite bakery, fresh fruit, coffee made exactly how she liked it. When did you do all this? She asked, genuinely surprised. I have my secrets. He pulled out her chair with exaggerated chivalry. Sit. Let me do something nice for you for once. You do nice things for me constantly. Then let me do one more. They ate breakfast overlooking Seoul. The city spread beneath them like a promise. Anna thought about the first time she'd stood on this balcony. Jin-Woo terrified, gripping the railing, barely able to breathe in the open air. Now he moved through the space with ease, comfortable in his own visibility. A year ago, I was convinced I was unlovable, Jin-Woo said quietly, that my scars made me too broken for anyone to want. And then you walked into my life and just refused to accept that narrative. You were never unlovable. You were just surrounded by people who didn't know how to love you properly. And now I have someone who does. He reached across the table and took her hand. Anna, this year with you has been the best year of my life. You taught me how to be human again, how to want things, how to believe I deserve good things. Anna's throat felt tight. You taught me things too, how to grieve without drowning, how to build a life in the aftermath of loss, how to let myself be loved when I felt like I didn't deserve it. We're quite the pair, the best pair. After breakfast, they walked through Gangnam, something Jin-Woo would never have done a year ago. People still stared at his scars occasionally, but he'd learned to let the stares slide off him. Most people didn't notice or didn't care, too wrapped up in their own lives to spare much attention for a stranger's face. They stopped at the coffee shop where Anna had waited for Jin-Woo after her thesis defense, the place where she'd received the Getty job offer. Ordered the same drinks they'd had that day. You were so nervous about that interview, Jin-Woo remembered. Kept second-guessing everything you planned to say. And you ran mock interviews with me until I wanted to throw things at you. But you got the job. And now look at you, senior coordinator, leading international projects, making actual change in the world. Anna smiled into her coffee. Remember when you were my employer? When I left you meals outside your door and you barely spoke to me? I was an ass. You were hurting. There's a difference. They wandered through neighborhoods Anna had explored during her first months in Seoul, when everything had felt foreign and overwhelming. Now the city felt like home. Its rhythms familiar, its streets mapped in her memory. I got another call from my grandmother yesterday, Jin-Woo said as they walked along the Han River. She wants us to come to dinner next week. Both of us, specifically requested your presence. I think she might actually like you now. Miracles never cease. Jin-Woo stopped walking, turning to face the river. The afternoon sun caught the water, turning it gold. She asked me about my intentions. Regarding you. Anna's heart did something complicated. And what did you tell her? That I intend to spend my life with you, however long that is, in whatever form you'll have me. Jin-Woo. I'm not proposing, he said quickly. Not yet. I have a plan for that and this isn't it. But I wanted you to know that this isn't temporary for me. You're not temporary. Anna kissed him right there beside the Han River, not caring about the people walking past, the cyclists dodging around them. When she pulled back, her eyes were bright. You're not temporary for me either. You're it. You're my person. Even when I have panic attacks about internet comments? Especially then. You're human. I don't want perfect. I want real. And you're the realest thing in my life. They spent the rest of the afternoon at a traditional Korean garden restaurant Patricia had mentioned wanting to visit. Anna told her mother's photo, which she'd brought in her bag. About the day, about Jin-Woo, about the life they were building. I wish you could meet him properly, Mama, Anna whispered to the photo while Jin-Woo was in the restroom. You'd love how he takes care of me, how he makes me laugh, how he's not afraid of my grief, doesn't try to fix it, just holds space for it. When Jin-Woo returned, he found Anna wiping her eyes. Talking to Patricia? Yeah, missing her. Wishing she could see this. Us happy, building something good. Jin-Woo sat beside her and looked at Patricia's photo. I think she does see it, somehow, and I think she's proud of you, of us. That evening, they returned to the penthouse balcony for sunset. Jin-Woo had set up candles, blankets, wine. The whole romantic setup that would have embarrassed him a year ago but now felt natural. I have something for you, he said, pulling out a small wrapped box. Anna's hands trembled slightly as she opened it. Inside was a delicate necklace. A pendant with two intertwined symbols, Korean and English, forming something new together. It's beautiful, she breathed. It's us. Two different worlds, two different stories, creating something that couldn't exist without both. Jin-Woo took the necklace and fastened it around her neck. I had it custom made. The Korean symbol is for healing. The English is for hope. Healing and hope, Anna repeated, touching the pendant. That's exactly what we are. They watched the sunset paint Seoul in impossible colors, and Anna felt the weight of the year behind them. All the grief and growth, the terror and triumph, the slow daily choosing of each other. Remember when you first arrived? Jin-Woo asked. I was so determined to drive you away, make you leave like all the others. You were very rude, extremely unpleasant. And you stayed anyway. Why? Anna thought about it. Because underneath all the anger and isolation, I saw someone who wanted to be saved but didn't know how to ask. And I understood that. After my mom's diagnosis, I felt the same way. Drowning but too proud to reach for a life preserver. We saved each other, Jin-Woo said quietly. We did, though I think saved isn't quite right. We witnessed each other, held space for each other to save ourselves. Jin-Woo pulled her close, and they sat wrapped in blankets as Seoul's lights flickered to life below them. "I love you," he said into her hair. "More than I thought I was capable of loving anything. You're my home, Anna, my safe place, my reason for opening curtains and facing the world. I love you too. You're my proof that life continues after loss, that joy can coexist with grief, that broken things can be beautiful." Later, lying in bed, Anna pulled out her phone and scrolled through photos from the past year. Jin-Woo's first smile, their first meal eaten together at the kitchen counter, the day he opened all the curtains, her thesis defense, his magazine photo shoot, dozens of small moments that added up to a life. "We should make an album," she said. "Physical photos. Something tangible. I like that idea. Something we can show our kids someday." Anna went very still. "Kids?" Jin-Woo propped himself up, suddenly nervous. "I mean, eventually, if you want. I know we haven't really talked about it, but I want kids. With you. Not now, but someday. I want to build a family with you." The relief on his face was palpable. Yeah. A house full of noise and chaos and love. Kids who grow up knowing their grandmother Patricia and their grandparents who died in a fire. Who understand that family is complicated and beautiful and worth fighting for. Jin-Woo kissed her, slow and deep and full of promise. "That sounds perfect." They fell asleep tangled together, and Anna dreamed of futures that felt possible now. Children's laughter, family dinners, a life built intentionally instead of just survived. The next morning, Jin-Woo was unusually nervous. He kept checking his phone, pacing the penthouse, jumping at small sounds. "You okay?" Anna asked over breakfast. "Fine. Just thinking about work stuff." "You're a terrible liar." "I know. Ignore me. I'm being weird." Anna let it go, assuming it was anxiety about an upcoming board meeting. She went about her Sunday laundry, meal prep for the week, video call with Priya. She didn't notice Jin-Woo making quiet phone calls in the other room. Didn't see him coordinating with people across multiple time zones. Didn't know that everything was coming together for a moment he'd been planning for months. That afternoon, he suggested they go out for dinner. "I made a reservation somewhere special," he said. "Dress nice." Anna put on the black dress she'd worn to dinner with his grandmother, the one that made her feel elegant and powerful. Jin-Woo wore a suit that probably cost more than her first car, but somehow didn't look pretentious on him. They took a car to a rooftop restaurant Anna had never been to. Traditional Korean architecture with modern touches, overlooking all of Seoul. "Jin-Woo, this is gorgeous," she said as they stepped onto the rooftop. "How did you?" Then she saw them. Priya, grinning and waving. Jin-Woo's grandmother, elegant as always but with something soft in her expression. And on a large screen, video connected from Chicago, Patricia's church community, faces Anna recognized from the funeral, all smiling at her. "What is this?" Anna asked, her voice shaking. Jin-Woo took her hand, and she realized his was trembling too. "This is me asking you the most important question of my life," he said. "In front of the people who matter, with your mother's community watching. Because Patricia should be here, and since she can't be, I wanted the next best thing." He led her to the center of the rooftop, where Patricia's photo had been set up on a small table surrounded by flowers, all her mother's favorites. "Anna Andrews," Jin-Woo began, and his voice cracked slightly. "A year ago, you walked into my darkness and refused to let me disappear. You taught me that scars are just proof of survival, that broken things can still be whole, that love isn't about fixing each other. It's about choosing each other every single day, despite and because of all the ways we're imperfect." Anna was crying now, not even trying to hide it. Jin-Woo knelt down, pulling a small box from his pocket. "You're my home, my safe place, my reminder that life is worth living fully instead of just surviving. I want to spend the rest of my life choosing you, building a family with you, honoring your mother's memory and my parents' memory by living the kind of love they would have wanted for us." He opened the box. The ring inside was stunning, a blend of Korean and Western design, elegant and meaningful. "Will you marry me?" Anna looked at Patricia's photo, at Priya crying happy tears, at Grandmother Park's rare smile, at the faces on the screen from Chicago all holding their breath. Then she looked at Jin-Woo, scarred and beautiful and terrified and brave, and felt her whole heart say yes. Yes, she said out loud. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. Jin-Woo's hands shook as he slid the ring onto her finger. Then he stood and pulled her into a kiss while their small audience erupted in cheers. Priya loudest of all, the Chicago community singing something that sounded like a hymn of joy. When they broke apart, Anna turned to Patricia's photo. We did it, Mama. We found each other. We're going to be okay. And standing there on a Seoul rooftop, surrounded by love both present and remembered, Anna believed it completely. They were going to be more than okay. They were going to be extraordinary. The ring caught Seoul's morning light as Anna typed, sending fractured rainbows across her laptop screen. She paused, smiled at the distraction, then forced herself back to the supply chain compliance report that was due by end of day. 3 months engaged, and she still wasn't used to the weight of the ring on her finger. The physical reminder that Jin-Woo had chosen her, that they were building something permanent. You're doing the thing again, Priya said from across the Getty office, not looking up from her own work. What thing? The thing where you stare at your engagement ring and get all dreamy-eyed instead of working. Anna laughed. I'm multitasking, dreamy-eyed and productive. Sure you are. Anna's phone buzzed with a text from Jin-Woo. Board meeting went well. Approved the new accessibility initiatives. Coming home early. Dinner? She typed back. Congrats. I'll cook. Be home by 6. The ease of it still amazed her sometimes. The casual planning, the assumed togetherness, the way home meant the same place for both of them now. They'd started looking at houses, something with a yard, room for the family they wanted to build, space that belonged to them instead of just him. How's the wedding planning going? Priya asked during their lunch break. Slowly. We both want something small, intimate. But Jin-Woo's grandmother has opinions about what's appropriate for the Park family. Anna made air quotes. We're negotiating. What does Jin-Woo want? Same thing I do. Just people who matter. Traditional Korean elements mixed with things from my mom's culture. Something that honors both our stories. That sounds perfect. It does, doesn't it? Anna smiled. We're thinking late fall. November, maybe. Give us time to plan without rushing. Her phone rang, an unknown Seoul number. She almost declined, then remembered she was waiting to hear back from several vendors. Anna Andrews. Ms. Andrews, this is Dr. Chun from Seoul National University Hospital. I'm calling about a research study we're conducting on pharmaceutical supply chain ethics in cancer treatment. Your thesis was recommended to us, and we'd like to discuss a potential consulting role. Anna's heart raced. SNU Hospital was one of the most prestigious medical centers in Asia. I'd be very interested in hearing more. They scheduled a meeting for the following week, and Anna hung up feeling like the universe was actively conspiring in her favor. She texted Jin-Woo immediately. SNU Hospital wants to consult with me on a research project about cancer treatment supply chains. His response came seconds later. That's incredible. Your mom would be so proud. Anna looked at Patricia's photo on her desk. She kept one at work now, a small frame showing her mother healthy and laughing. We're doing it, Mama, she whispered, using what happened to you to help other people. The grief was still there, 3 years after Patricia's death, but it had changed shape, becoming something Anna could carry alongside joy instead of something that crushed all other feelings. That evening, Anna came home to find Jin-Woo in the kitchen actually successfully making japchae, one of her favorite dishes that he'd finally mastered after months of practice. Look at you, being domestic, she teased, dropping her bag and crossing to kiss him. I contain multitudes. He gestured at the spread with pride. Japchae, kimchi from the market, and I even made dessert. Well, I bought dessert from that bakery you love, but I'm counting it. They ate on the balcony, a ritual they'd maintained through every season. Anna told him about the hospital research opportunity, and Jin-Woo shared details about the accessibility initiatives the board had approved. We're hiring consultants to audit all our facilities, he said. making sure everything from doorways to workstations to bathrooms are accessible for people with different abilities. It's going to cost money up front, but it's the right thing to do. I'm so proud of you, of what you're building there. I couldn't have done it without you. You taught me that business should serve people, not just profit. After dinner, Jin-Woo pulled out his laptop. I want to show you something. He opened a folder of house listings. I've been looking, found a few places I think you'd like. They scrolled through options together. A house in Songbukdong with a garden. Another in Itaewon closer to Anna's office. A traditional hanok that had been modernized. This one, Anna said, pointing to a 2-story home in a quiet neighborhood. It has a yard, room for kids. And look, there's space for a home office for both of us. And it's near good schools, Jin-Woo added. Not that we need those yet, but eventually. Eventually, Anna agreed, her hand finding his. When we're ready. They scheduled viewings for the weekend, and Anna felt the future becoming concrete. A house, a wedding, family, all the things that had seemed impossible when she was just trying to survive her mother's illness. Later, lying in bed, Jin-Woo traced patterns on Anna's arm, following the surgical scar from elbow to wrist. Do you ever regret it? He asked quietly. Staying in Seoul? You could have gone back to Chicago after your mom died. Started over somewhere familiar. Anna thought about it honestly. Sometimes I wonder what that life would have looked like. But no, I don't regret it. Seoul is home now. You're home. My work is here, my life is here. And I think Mama would approve. She always wanted me to build something bigger than the neighborhood we came from. She'd definitely approve of you. Jin-Woo kissed her forehead. You're doing exactly what she raised you to do. Making the world a little better, one supply chain at a time. What about you? Any regrets? Only that I wasted so many years hiding. But even that led me to you, so maybe it wasn't wasted. Just the long route to where I needed to be. Anna shifted to face him fully, both sides of his scarred face visible in the dim light. You know what I love most about you? My devastating good looks? She laughed. Besides that, I love that you turned your pain into purpose. You could have stayed bitter, angry at the world. Instead, you're using your platform to help people. Speaking at burn survivor events, advocating for accessibility, being visible so others don't have to feel alone. It still scares me sometimes. The visibility. I had a moment last week where someone was staring at my scars and I wanted to hide again. But you didn't. No. I remembered what Dr. Yoon says. Discomfort isn't danger. Being stared at is uncomfortable, but it can't actually hurt me. And the work is more important than my comfort. You're so much braver than you give yourself credit for. Jin-Woo pulled her close, and they fell asleep wrapped around each other, dreaming of houses and futures and all the ways their lives were expanding. The Mother's Day after their engagement was Anna's 4th without Patricia. She woke up sad, the grief sitting heavy on her chest in a way it hadn't for months. Jin-Woo noticed immediately. Rough morning? He asked, bringing her coffee in bed. It's Mother's Day. I really miss her today. I know. What do you need? Anna thought about it. I want to visit her grave. I know it's in Chicago and we can't just go. But maybe we could video call the church? See if someone can put flowers there for me? Or, Jin-Woo said carefully, we could fly to Chicago. Today. Right now. If you want. Anna sat up. Jin-Woo, that's insane. It's a 15-hour flight. We both have work tomorrow. We can work remotely for a few days. Anna, if you want to be at your mother's grave on Mother's Day, we should make that happen. 6 hours later, they were on a plane. Anna slept most of the flight, exhausted from crying and the emotional whiplash of Jin-Woo's spontaneous gesture. When she woke, he was reading a book about Korean-American cultural integration, taking notes in the margins. Research for our future kids, he explained when he caught her looking. Want to make sure we raise them with both cultures, not just mine. Anna's heart swelled so full she thought it might burst. They landed in Chicago at dawn local time, went straight to the cemetery. The morning was cool and clear, spring flowers blooming around Patricia's headstone. Anna knelt in the grass, tracing her mother's name carved in marble. Jin-Woo stood a respectful distance back, giving her space. "Hi, Mama," Anna said quietly. "I brought Jin-Woo to meet you properly. We're engaged now, getting married in November. I wish you could be there, but I know you're watching somehow." She told Patricia everything, the job at SNU Hospital, the house they were looking at, the life they were building. Cried through most of it, but smiled too. "I'm happy, Mama. Really happy. And I know that's what you wanted for me. To live fully, not just survive. Jin-Woo helps me do that. He sees me the way you always did. Completely, scars and all." Jin-Woo eventually joined her, kneeling beside Patricia's grave. "Mrs. Andrews," he said formally, "I know we met before, but I want to make you a promise now. I promise to love your daughter with everything I have. To honor the strength and compassion you taught her. To build a life with her that would make you proud. And to make sure any children we have know about their grandmother Patricia. Her faith, her courage, her love." Anna leaned into him, and they sat there together in the Chicago cemetery, honoring the woman who'd shaped them both. Before they left, Anna placed fresh flowers, Patricia's favorites, and a photo. The engagement photo she and Jin-Woo had taken, both of them laughing, his scars and her joy equally visible. "So you can see us, Mama. So you know we're okay." They spent 2 days in Chicago, visiting Patricia's church, meeting with the community that had raised Anna. Everyone loved Jin-Woo, and he navigated the different cultural context with grace that surprised him. "Your mom's people are wonderful," he said on the flight back to Seoul. "So warm, so welcoming. They're family, not by blood but by choice. Like what we're building." Speaking of which, Jin-Woo pulled out his tablet, showing Anna wedding venue options. "What do you think about the garden restaurant? Where I proposed? It's perfect. Mama's photo was there. Feels right." They planned on the flight, small ceremony, maybe 50 people, traditional Korean elements mixed with gospel music and soul food. A wedding that honored both their stories. November 15th, Anna decided. That gives us 6 months to plan. And it's after the anniversary of Mama's death, so I won't be a complete mess. You're allowed to be a mess on our wedding day if you need to be. I know, but I want it to be mostly joy. Grief can have the other 364 days a year. Back in Seoul, life resumed its rhythm. Anna met with SNU Hospital and accepted the consulting role. Jin-Woo gave a keynote speech at a disability rights conference that went viral for all the right reasons. They found a house they both loved and put in an offer. On a random Tuesday evening, they were cooking dinner together, an ordinary moment in their increasingly extraordinary life, when Anna's phone rang. The number was from Chicago. She answered. "Anna? This is Pastor Williams from your mom's church." Anna's heart seized. "Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine, sweetheart. I'm calling because Patricia left something for you. A letter to be delivered when you got engaged. Your mom had a feeling about you and Jin-Woo even before she passed. She wanted you to have this now." Anna's hands shook. "A letter? I'm scanning it now. Check your email in about 5 minutes." Anna set the phone down carefully. "My mom left me a letter. For when I got engaged." Jin-Woo turned off the stove and came to her. "Do you want privacy to read it?" "No. Stay with me." The email came through. Anna opened the attachment. Her mother's handwriting, slightly shaky from illness but unmistakably Patricia's. "My dearest Anna, if you're reading this, it means you found someone worth marrying. I'm gonna guess it's that sweet boy Jin-Woo who came to see me. The one with the scars on the outside who saw the scars on your heart and didn't look away. Baby girl, I'm so proud of you. I always have been from the moment you were born. Watching you grow into a woman of strength and compassion has been my life's greatest joy. I know you're sad I can't be at your wedding. I'm sad about it too. But I want you to know something important. I'm not really gone. I'm in every lesson I taught you, every value I instilled, every moment of courage you show. When you're kind when it's hard, that's me. When you stand up for what's right, that's me. When you love deeply despite the risk of loss, that's me. Love your husband well. Build a family full of joy and faith. Teach your children about justice and grace. Live fully, not carefully. That's what I want for you. A life so big and beautiful it makes all the grief worthwhile. I'm not afraid to die, Anna. I'm at peace. My only regret is missing the beautiful life I know you're going to build. But I'll be watching somehow, cheering you on, proud of every step. Be happy, baby girl. That's all I ever wanted. Just be happy. All my love, always, Mama. Anna sobbed so hard she couldn't breathe. Jin-Woo held her through it, reading over her shoulder, crying too. She knew, Anna gasped. She knew about us. About you. She had good instincts. Anna read the letter 3 more times, then carefully saved it to print and frame. Her mother's blessing, her mother's love, her mother's final gift. That night, Anna added the letter to her altar, Patricia's photo, the world's best mom mug, and now her mother's words about their future. We're going to make you proud, Mama, Anna promised. Jin-Woo and me, we're going to build something beautiful. Jin-Woo wrapped his arms around her from behind, both of them looking at Patricia's photo. We already are, he said softly. Every day we choose each other, we're building it. Your mom knew that. She saw it before we did. Anna turned in his arms and kissed him, tasting salt and love, and the particular flavor of grief transformed into gratitude. They were scarred, both of them, by fire and loss and all the ways life had tried to break them. But scars were just proof they'd survived. Evidence of healing. Maps of where they'd been and how far they'd come. And tomorrow they'd keep building. Keep choosing each other. Keep honoring the people they'd lost by living fully in their names. Together, they were becoming something neither could have been alone. Whole. 6 months later, on a perfect November day, Jin-Woo Park and Anna Andrews were married in a garden overlooking Seoul. Patricia's photo held a place of honor. Grandmother Park cried. Priya gave a speech that made everyone laugh and cry. The food was a perfect blend of Korean and Seoul food traditions. And when Jin-Woo kissed his bride, both sides of his scarred face caught the golden hour light, and he'd never looked more beautiful. They built their life one day at a time. Adopted a dog, had 2 children who grew up knowing both their cultures, continued their work making the world more just. The grief remained, but so did the joy. And in the end, that was what mattered. They chose love, every single day, despite the scars, because of them, and that made all the difference. Thank you for journeying with me through Anna and Jin-Woo's story. This is a reminder that the scars we carry are reminders of what we survived, and they are there to make us stronger. Also hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet so you don't miss out on mind-blowing stories. Until next time,